Gonna make the profiles boom, 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 boom. What it is, I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is today on Gunner's Profiles. What it is real life, real talk by a real one who really did that. What it isn't is added preservatives, meaning bullshit. It ain't none of that, right? As you can tell by that thumbnail, the rise, the fall, even the middle of the Fresno 14ers. We ain't talking about the Fresno Bulldogs. Oh, they became Fresno Bulldogs later. But I'm talking about the F14er ganga, the organization, the group, one of the most notorious groups ever to walk the California Department of Correction yardas, right? Now, a lot of people don't know the historia of the F14ers, the Fresno 14ers, okay? And I always, as a young kid, wondered why they seem to be singled out or differentiated upon their name according to the agenda. I always thought a norteño was a norteño, a northerner was a northerner. If you're from Northern California, yes, you were from a different city, a different fucking clecha, a different game, but at the same time, it was all one group, homes. We all rocked norte. That's what I assumed. So I guess I didn't assume right. I guess I was a baboso. I guess prior to me getting my diaper changed, there was already some shit going on behind the scenes, and Fresno was always just a little bit different than others. They always stood out amongst the rest, right? Now, Fresno 14ers, F14ers, is the original organization or gang that the Fresno Bulldogs developed from or became, they became that. They developed from F14, they ascended to the Fresno Bulldogs, and we all know how that ended up. We're going to get to that in a little bit. But in a menudo style and direct fashion, I thought I should talk about the rise and the fall of the F14ers, because that organization no longer exists, or at least the moniker or the name no longer exists, but the Bulldogs carry on the tradition. Now, being young in the game and first coming into contact with F14ers, they were already Bulldogs at this time, but they did claim F14 Bulldogs, meaning Fresno Norte Bulldogs. And I always thought that funny. Like, why did they claim F14 even prior to anything? They didn't say, when I met the Bulldog, he didn't say, hey, this is fucking Fresno Bulldog Norte. He didn't say, like I said, Westheimer said Norte. He didn't say that. It was always F14 Bulldogs, meaning the F14 came even before the Norte. I didn't understand it, right? But I quickly learned the historia, and I quickly became aware. My awareness was up. My antennas went up. So I beep, 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 beep. And I became aware of what was going on in menudo style in a direct fashion. It was different. Now, Fresno's a very big city in the Central Valley. It's one of the bigger cities. You got Sacramento, Stockton, Modesto, Merced. Can we get ours? And then, of course, you have Fresno, right? Being located in the Central Valley, more north though, right off that 99. Fresno is a grimy, icky, sticky, fucking hit you one time for your mind, take your flux capacitor, bend you over and give it in your poop shoot type town, right? They ain't playing. Them motherfuckers will wiggle. The no, it's a no after dark, right? You don't want to go fuck around in Fresno. They've always been with the business, with the activities there. And F14, Fresno 14 developed out of oppression, out of coming together as being homeboys from Fresno. Now, Fresno, anyone that knows the history of the F14 knows that Fresno is derived by a lot of families. Okay, it's a family-orientated gang culture. It's not like other cities where you have a homeboy that moved from Guatemala and a homeboy that moved from Honduras, a homeboy that moved from Japan, vato, right? And all of a sudden they grew up in the barrio, they're from the barrio, and you just got homeboys from everywhere. It's not like that. In Fresno, a lot of these big, well-known families like the Galvans, the Aguilars, the fucking Vindiolas, and so on and so forth, the Ortizes, these are all families that are traditionally bred and raised and born and bleed and eat and sleep and smell and fuck and all that in Fresno, right? Just they've been around the block a long time, and it becomes traditional to be involved in the gang aspect of life, because that's how Fresno is. It's very gang orientated, and you're either with it or without it. And you don't want to be without it in Fresno, right? So that's how a lot of these youngsters grew up, and through the eras, man, that's just what it was. It's very family gang related. Everybody, hey, guess what? Hey, that's a clean ass whip. Where'd you get that? Your jefito, Charlie. My jefito's jefito. So they were doing it like that. Bang, bang. F14 originals, right? What? We don't even get down like that. Well, they did, right? So back in the 70s in prison, that's when the norteños and the sureños were being established. Meaning they were the soldados for the organizations. They were the guys on the forefront, on the front lines. They were the ones fighting the guerra, establishing these yards, figuring out who was going to be where and how was going to be what, okay? They knew a little bit about a lot of it, man, and they had to do what they had to do. And in guerra, you always need soldados. That's the backbone to this shit. That's it. That's our tradition. Here's historia. Knowledge you're not going to get in college anywhere else, except on Gunners Collective and Gunners Profiles, and of course, a couple other channels. Sprinkle them in, right? You're going to get some history, and here's a history lesson for you. When it came to the Fresno 14ers, like I said, they were always just a little bit different. Fresno is a fucking town that's with it. Everybody there got hands. It's in the water. It's in the agua, right? They got hands. They handle their business homes. They've always been renegades and against the grain so much, right? That fucking people seen that from the beginning. I'd have been like, hey, why do they have 14ers and not just Fresno Norteños, right? They always had to be a little bit different. They always felt like they were a little bit tougher than others. And they displayed that. The characteristics and the mannerisms that they displayed were thuggish and ruggish. Pero no bone. Now they like the bone, right? But this was different. They said it with their chest. Put it like that. On paro. So anyways, the Fresno 14ers, they in the 70s had their own little clica. Okay, you were from Sanjo, you were a Sanjonero, a shark, later on in life. Tulare County, Merced, Central Valle, Modesto, Stockton, Sacra, the Bay Area. Of course, you had all the Bay Area, all the way from Vallejo on back to, the East Bay. That's just how it was. Contra Costa County, they wiggle. You had Fairfield, Vacaville, all the homies from everywhere, even the fucking homies up there from Eureka. Why Eureka? No, Eureka. I don't know. I Tweeka, right? That's what they do. Anyway, so you just had a lot of different people. Yuba City stand up. They were repping. But F14 had a clique within a clique. Meaning everybody knew if you were F14er, they displayed it in tattoos all over their mascara. Everyone knew, okay, this is F14er, he's from Fresno. That was just something that was prideful to them, something that they did. It was their own clique, like I said, within the clique. Now, a lot of these notorious members actually became members of La Nuestra Familia. Not a lot of them, but some. So Fresno had a lot of respect. A lot of respect. They were probably the most respected city coming from the Central Valle just based on size, notoriety, and the way they carry themselves. People feared them. That's a fact. In prison, people knew if you fucked with the F14ers, you were going to get got, homes. They were not playing. There were several individuals coming from several families in Fresno that would fucking peel your capwards, backwards, period. Just how it was, right? There's always been a rivalry there. It's an unspoken rivalry. I've talked about it in the past between Sanjo and Fresno. These being two of the bigger gang-related cities in Northern California. They just never seen eye to eye, homes. Now, there was always just that tension that hardly ever boiled over, but was at that boiling point. And a lot of people will tell you, and there's a lot of people that will say, Charlie, Holmes, I never seen no shit like that. I got homeboys from Boba. Fuck you, Holmes. You don't know. See, I lived it. Right? And I'm telling you, there was always some animosity and always tension between Fresno and Sanjo. And that was even in the 70s and 80s, okay, prior to us being born. So sit your little punk ass down here and get some knowledge, right? Because I'm telling you, this is just how it was. Okay, there's always been that animosity. There was always that funk. I don't know if there's that funk now based on the Bulldogs funk with everybody. But at that time, man, even during the ascension of the Norteño cause, man, these guys were like a rival, but not bitter rival. But so, the inner workings just weren't there. So there was a screw loose somewhere. To what capacity of screw? The fucking screw, what's it? So that means the engine didn't run right. But these F14ers were very well known and notorious, And at this time when the Sureños and the Norteños were being established on these yardas and fucking figuring out all the politics and the policies of what they were going to do and how the guerra was going to go, the F14ers were in the mix. Now, somewhere along the line, a lot of these individuals in the 80s decided that for no other reason, they were tired of being oppressed. They felt they were being oppressed by these city guys. Okay, you have to understand, when you come from a town like Fresno, we call them towns. Merced, Modesto, we are smaller, what they consider farm towns. Now, so I can't see a fucking farm inside. It does smell like caca sometimes, though. But these are considered farm towns, and then you have big cities like San Fran, Oakland, Sanjo, the whole Bay Area, they're considered cities. Even Sacramento was considered a city, right? And there was always that little bit of tension there, where the city guys thought they sang with the chest. They thought they were a little bit more high-powered than others just because they were more ahead of the game. Their swag, their stilo, their style, their talk, their slang, the way they fucking handled the Glock, man, right? That's just how it was, right? Where in the Valley, people automatically assumed they're just a bunch of lame farmers from the north. But that was further from the case, right? In the Valley, motherfuckers will pop your cat, right? Motherfuckers will wiggle. And they feel me now, right? They're understanding now the Dusolina gets horribly terrible, right? And that's just how it is, right? So there was always that animosity there between Fresno being one of the biggest cars and San Jose and these other City Vida towns. that there automatically was friction there. Okay, but again, people wouldn't run up or push up on Fresno based on Fresno had it going on as far as the hitters that they had in prison were just them ones, right? So the F-14ers started to develop some type of animosity towards cities like San Jose, cities like Frisco, Oakland, and they started to basically pull away. Okay, now something happened, and the story goes 10 different ways, or what are they? F-14 different ways, right? If you talk on the Fresno side, they're going to say it was the Norteños and the NF, man, that were oppressing them, man, and they felt that for no other reason they should fucking bounce and do the red wave and sabes que get off where they were mad at. And then if you talk to the Norteños, they say, fuck them, it was on them. They chose to be what they wanted to be. They thought they're the devil. They thought they were better than us. So there's only one us and one them, right? However the story goes, man, you know, depending on your geography, they went two different routes. They split. Okay, and the F-14ers became their own carro and felt that they should pull away from the Norteño cause and the NF and do their own thing. Now, you would think with an organization as high-powered as the NF and some of these other organizations that these others would just falter off, because it's happened before where people felt that for no other reason they should start their own little thing and it's all good in the hood and toma, you get a little pico de gallo and that's it. It's over, homes. This shit's hot. That's it. I know it is, menudo, right? Boom, you're done. Chorro, right? But it doesn't always work out that way. Fresno, like I said, having some notorious hitters and being killers, man, and being about their shit and being very family orientated and gang related, that's the shit. Right? They were doing their thing. And they developed and took the moniker of their local Fresno State football team, the Bulldogs, and gradually left the F-14 behind and became Bulldogs. Okay, Fresno Bulldogs, to what they are now today. Now, you could still drive around this. I drive around Fresno all day. Shh, don't tell nobody, right? And there's a whole lot of old schoolers that still have Huelga birds and F-14ers on them. It's becoming minimal at best, meaning it's becoming a thing of the past. You don't see it much, but a lot of these old viejos, a lot of these old OGs and vatos of my era that did have the F-14 on them are very highly well respected. You know, it's crazy because you would think, you know, as much as the Bulldogs hate Norteños and vice versa, and they're adversaries and they go at it and they disrespect on YouTube and people hate each other, a lot of these old viejos with the F-14 are basically looked at as fucking the foundation, the forefathers of the movement of the Fresno Bulldogs. And it's a fact. It's absolutely a fact. That is how it did. You know, the rise was there, man. The Bulldogs through the 80s were fucking known and notorious to handle their business. Every time them old school vatos, you know, at that time they were youngsters in that era, came out of them cell blocks, they got off, right? And that's one thing I could say about the Bulldogs. That's why I give them so much respect, the F-14ers as well as the Bulldogs. Even the Fresno Norteños are a little different. They wiggle hard, right? They have to. They're in no man's land, that's it. And the dog is belly up, right? That's the reason why I get down, demon. That's the reason why I give him so much respect, is because the city of Fresno has always been that one town, that one city that was always looked at as, fuck you, homie, fuck you, pay me, right? They rubbed people the wrong way. I know that in my town, man, if you even mention the city of Fresno, about 100 people go, what, right? So I'm just talking about, I'm going to go to the zoo, the Chaffee Zoo and shit, you know what I mean? Orale, okay. Hey, check this out, did you have dog paws on them all? Right? People are tripping. And that's just the way we were fucking laced, the way we're indoctrinated, you know, it was indoctrinated in our head, man, to anything Fresno automatically was Bulldogs, automatically was enemies, automatically posed a threat, automatically get off where you're mad at, right? And, you know, me having the leg up, being a youngster, man, going through the California Youth Authority and being sold up with Bulldogs and fighting side by side and against, I already knew what time it was. I said, man, don't fuck with them cats. They'll fucking bite you. Their bite is bigger than their bark. Believe me, I know. Been around the block a few times. So the rise of the 70s and 80s of the Bulldog organization, which were the F-14ers at that time, was a vicious one. It was a vicious one. Ask yourself this. Sit your ass down, right? And ask yourself this. Could you do it? Could you go through it? People are like, oh, I'm a gang member, man. I know what I signed up for. I'm about that business. Yeah, but imagine going to a yard where every time you go, you are that one they're on. Now, there's been a lot of ups and downs, man. There was times when there was a red light on the Bulldogs with the Southsiders, and they weren't necessarily working together hand in hand, but the Southsiders were not tripping off the pedals, and there was times when it was all la guerra. The Bulldogs have basically been in the mix or at it with everyone throughout the history and the course of time and continue to be. Okay? Now, you got to understand, a lot of people say, They're in Fresno. They're on the island. They're over there, Holmes. No one cares, right? So I was scared. But when you're incarcerated, Holmes, and the motherfuckers get off the bus, you better care because they're going to put something in you just as quick as you'll put something in them. They're not playing, right? That's a fact. You know, and you got to respect that gangster, Holmes. You could dislike them. You could hate on them. So okay, you can say, fuck you, as it, but at the same time, Holmes, you've got to respect them. They demand that, and they will fight for it, okay? Fresno 14ers were norteños. They were laced the same way. See, it's kind of like when John Gruden went over to Tampa Bay. He already knew the Pinchy Raiders game plan. That's why Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl. Think about it, also, right? He already knew the game plan. Well, guess what? The Bulldogs already knew, the F-14ers knew the norteño game plan. They once were, so they still strived and lived that way. So it's good, we're red, that's right. They continued that struggle only within themselves. Someone's not answering to no other individual other than their own gente and their own people. They renegaded in this motherfucker. That's how they got down, Holmes. That's how they were able to prosper, and that's how they were able to establish and still have a stronghold and hold their own. Now, of course, administration played their hand in helping them by fucking keeping them separated from individuals, but there was plenty of times, Holmes, when there was no separation in the 80s, when motherfuckers was getting off where they were mad at, okay? And they still stood their ground. You know, that's why they are an organization or a group, not spoken on a lot here on YouTube, the F-14ers. A lot of people talk more about the Bulldogs, but prior to the Bulldogs, their forefathers were the F-14ers. Like I said, I have a Theo, man, you know, that became a Bulldog, who used to tell me a lot of stories. He's no longer with us, rest in peace, my Theo Mark. But he used to explain to me, man, the historia of the Fresno F-14ers that I didn't know. You know, I used to say, damn, them motherfuckers was really with the program. He said, absolutely. Now, I've talked to a lot of old school F-14ers, and I asked them, bro, why? Why'd you leave us, man? Right? And they said, you know, Fresno has always been that rebellious city. They've always been looked at as that town, man, that just didn't fit in. Why? Not because they thought they were too gangster, but because they were, bro. You know, let's just be honest here. Let's just give them their motherfucking just dues and their props. Every town got hitters. Every town, every city, Holmes, got motherfuckers that'll wiggle while they work. But at the same time, Fresno just was a little bit different. They stood out amongst the rest. Even prior to the Red Wave, even prior to the fucking division of North and Bulldogs, Holmes, they always had that God of the F-14ers. Like I said, man, when I first met them, it was F-14. I said, well, why? What does that mean? Fresno 14, Holmes, Fresno Norte? Nah, just F-14. Okay, you know, they never said FXIV. They never said FX4. That I never heard. It was always F-14. They made sure that that 14 was associated with them. And there even came a time, for a little time in the 90s, where if you had a 14 on, your homeboys was looking at you some type of way because the 14 represented Fresno. They took that. We're going to need that. Like Mikey took sauce from me. Sauce, right? They took 14. Like, hey, we're going to need that. Let's separate ours from yours. You guys could have XIV, but we're going to take motherfucking 14. And even back in those days, here's a motherfucking lesson that you never heard, man, with a Smith & Wesson, right? Some knowledge you can't get in college. If you had an X4 on you, homeboys looked at you like you was a boot butt. I'm just saying, though, because that was like a mix of the two. So I was saying there was no mixing and mingling in gangbanging. That's just a fact. Nowadays, it's different. People get whatever they want on them. Well, got birds fucking when they're in the 7th grade. And, you know what I mean? They're going to have to fucking pay the course of action for when it comes down. But at the same time, that is not my business. But what I will say is that the Fresno 14ers, the rise and fall of the Fresno 14ers, actually, was there a fall? There hasn't been a fall. They just gradually dissipated the F-14 moniker and changed it to the Bulldogs. Now, Bulldogs were established even in the late 80s. They were claiming Fresno Bulldogs. It just was just different clicas. It was just something that was a Fresno thing that wasn't really out there as an organization. Of course, over time, we all know how that ended up. They became the Fresno Bulldogs to which they are today. Now, I talked to a lot of them. Got a lot of respect. A lot of them respect me, some don't, as you could hear by the story that I told the other day. And it wasn't necessarily that they don't respect me, they just didn't know me. You know, as soon as they found out who I was, man, and the push and the way that I fucking pushed for all brown people, they said, okay, back to the mama. And then they were winning, right? But for a minute there, you know, I felt the wrath. I already knew what time it was, man. And I knew to be on my toes because fucking these Bulldogs don't play, man. Anyone that thinks they do, you got the game fucked up, right? So, the F-14ers are a very well-respected group. It's to see F-14 now is taboo. You don't really see it anymore. I have seen it in a few people, even Huelga birds, like I said. But it's passe. It's done. It's a thing of the past. But it is a part of their history that they do not forgive and they do not forget. Okay, these vatos know where they come from. Just like, you know, in my neighborhood, man, there's homeboys from first generation, second generation, third generation. And a lot of these motherfuckers nowadays, they don't respect the gangster of the real ones. You know, I come from an era, man, I didn't give a fuck if my homeboy was a DO fell off in Pleasant Valley or whatever the case may be. My homeboy was my homeboy from the hood. Now I knew on the unders I wasn't supposed to do nothing, but I still kicked it with them, right? That was just me because we had hood love, man. We grew up together, motherfuckers since diapers. But nowadays motherfuckers act like, fuck that dude, fuck everything he's talking about, right? Because you don't know the fucking establishment that we put. So if motherfuckers like me and a whole bunch of other homeboys did do what we did and went through the struggles we went through, there would be no motherfucking hood for you to call your own. That's a fact. You know what I mean? But, it's neither here nor there. And I guess the Bulldogs feel the exact same way. So when I say rise and fall of F14, yes, there was a rise through the 70s and 80s where they started to do their own thing. And there's been a lot of notorious F14ers, Crackers, Vindiola, to say the least, man. And so many others, right? Monster and fucking Animal. And they just had so many different real righteous motherfuckers, Cisco Aguilar, I can remember so many that claim the F14 moniker and at the same time, man, continue, to be of a bulldog nature and do their thing. Like I say, names and monikers change, stilos and styles and the tenacity to go out there and get it and to be a vicious hitter, man, does it. No one ever forgets. Anyways, that was just a little knowledge you couldn't get in college, a little game for a motherfucking lame that doesn't fucking know what it is, right? There's the biz. You already know what it is, man. With that being said, I hope that you move smooth with a purpose. Hope that you get everything that you want coming to you. Go out there for your family. So that's good. That 14er ain't, because they're not around anymore. And even if they were, they'll just take it. They don't fake it. They don't break it. They'll just make it, right? It is what it is. If you like this, please hit that like and subscribe. If not, thumbs down. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive and struggle for what I truly believe in, which is breeding together all brown men. So that way these putos don't make a caramba on us anymore. You know what it is. This is the gun. Fuck Tiger. Bang, bang. Free K.